Caught me dancing. It's like a TikTok, but it's not TikTok. This is Facebook and YouTube. Hey, everybody. I am Eric Mitchell, and you're on To The Point with me, Eric Mitchell. It is Thursday, oh my goodness, it's May 14th. I knew this because tomorrow is 30 days that you've all been tuning in to watch our program. So let's get right to the news. Not as busy as a news day as yesterday, but we have an amazing show ahead. So let's get to the news so we can get to the point with our amazing guests. As a reminder to everybody tuning in, if you're just jumping on YouTube and Facebook, what I want you to do is smash that subscribe button, hit the notification button so you can be notified every time we're on air and drop a new segment. We appreciate you so much for doing that. So remember, like, thumbs up, hit the share, smash that subscribe button, and hit share. Let your friends know. Come on, tune in. And as always, every Thursday is our honoring veterans, first responders, and healthcare workers. They are the backbone of America. On our show, they get a whole hour of a segment. No other network's doing that. So that's what we give to you. On with the news. Interesting start off. The Wisconsin Supreme Court. Now, we have all these folks fighting about opening back our country. Some governors are quick to do it. Some governors are like, hey, we're going to follow what the other governors are doing. The Wisconsin Supreme Court has struck down Governor Tony Evers' stay-at-home restrictions. The High Court ruled for Republicans in a challenge on the extension. The ruling means the states essentially reopened ahead of the May 26th expiration date of Evers' order. If the lift caps on if no matter what, they still have to maintain social distancing and all that fun stuff. So it doesn't take away that, but it does allow for all businesses to reopen long as they're maintaining all the social distancing rules. And we're going to be able to ask a little bit about that and talk about it with our first guest. We do have a doctor on the show, like a real doctor, not like a Google doctor. You know, all of our friends who the last 8 weeks have jumped on social media and become doctors from Google. Anyways, as always, it's Thursday, so we know what that means. That means the unemployment update comes out from the government, and another 3 million Americans filed this past week, going from Thursday to Wednesday. And what that means is new 3 million. So that puts the number roughly at about 39 million Americans are currently without work and on unemployment. A bigger concern is many folks who filed weeks ago still haven't received their funding yet, which is a problem. I know the West Coast is seeing it. California became the first state in the union last week to ask for federal assistance to help with their unemployment. The fact they're just running out of money to give to people. They got a lot of people in that state. We're in spring. But to me, it's like the spring that wasn't. One of the things about spring is we get used to, it's always been hailed as the time of renewal and rebirth. But it's, everybody's talked about it in literature, religion, and culture. As we all know, spring is kind of this rebirth. We have Easter, Passover, all the holidays in between. But we really haven't had that because why? Well, we've been stuck inside of our home. Losses of loved ones, jobs, and experiences have cast a very bad veil over spring, and the season has effectively been exercised by one hemisphere's calendar. Yep, we're all like, we're done with spring, bring on summer. We want to go outside. We're done with the doom and the gloom and all of the horribleness. President Obama has been in the news lately, and it's been nearly 8 years since President Obama was on a ballot, approaching 4 years since he left the White House. But the former president is emerging as a central figure in the bitter and pandemic hit 2020 election. The Democrats are eagerly embracing Obama as a political wingman for Joe Biden, who spent 2 terms at his side as his VP. Obama remains the party's most popular figure, particularly with the black voters and younger Democrats, the millennials. And Biden's campaign is planning on bringing him on to have a highly visible role in the months to come. But for Donald Trump and his Republican allies and supporters, that means another opportunity to zero in on perhaps his foremost political nemesis. It also provides another focus as the administration tries to move public attention away from the terrible human and economic devastation of the coronavirus outbreak, as well of Trump's handling of the crisis. It's just a mess. That's what all that said. We could have written politics 2020. It's a mess. Hashtag to the point. subscribe and share. Anyways, uh, so I couldn't resist. Oh, also, this gets better. I love going down our news every day. I wish it was all happy and pumpkins, but it's sad and makes you want to not talk about it. But we're talking about it because it's only 10 minutes, and then we get to talk to fun people. So next, advice from the top U.S. disease control experts on how to safely reopen businesses and institutions was more detailed and restrictive than the plan that was released by the White House last month. The guidance, which was shelved by the administration, also offered recommendations to help communities decide when to shutter facilities down again if there are already flare-ups. I know this is an issue when it comes to all the sports teams. They're trying to figure out worst case scenarios because we all can't live in this bubble. Yes, everyone knows the economy needs to reopen. But if we're going to have sporting events, which we need to have, we've already talked to enough people, we need to be prepared for flare-ups. Players getting it, fans getting it, coaches getting it, cheerleaders getting it, staff getting it, concession stand people getting it. There needs to be a place. That's all people are asking for. I know yesterday was a popularity contest on social media to see what side were you on? Were you taking Dr. Fauci or were you taking the president's side? It's funny that more people took somebody who's not a doctor's side than a doctor, who we've heard from multiple experts on our show, including Colonel Michael Lewis, who ran the SARS outbreak unit seven short years ago, spoke highly of Dr. Fauci's expertise in this matter. Folks, let's let the experts be experts and let's not armchair quarterback this. It's fine if you want to armchair how the Tampa Bay Bucks are going to be with Tom Brady and Gronk, but this is not the place for you to figure out the data when you don't. If you're not talking to patients, please sit down, be quiet, and just watch. Let the experts do their job. They don't come into your house and tell you how to run your show. Don't tell them how to run theirs. And finally, which was great news, by the way, out of New York City, it was great to see Tina Fey. She shed a tear after announcing that more than, get this, $115 million was raised towards supporting New Yorkers impacted by COVID-19 during a virtual telethon. Tina Fey was quoted as saying, thank you, as she was crying. She was the host of Rise Up New York, an event Monday evening. The Emmy Award-winning actress, along with other A-list celebrities from Barbra Streisand, J-Lo, Michael Strahan, asked for donations to help for relief and recovery efforts. Robert De Niro was quoted as saying, our city is under attack, but we've been here before. In the last 20 years, both 9/11 and Hurricane Sandy, you can take your best shot, but you cannot break our spirit. You got to love New Yorkers and you got to love Robert De Niro. Whether you like him politically or not, I love the attitude of the tri-state folks. You're right. You could beat them down, but they go to their knees and they rise back up harder than anybody you've ever met in your life. God bless you folks. You truly are like the focal point of the world because you guys truly get hit by everything. You're picked on in movies, you're picked on in real life, and you always pop back up. And finally, what day was it? Tuesday. I don't mean to say, I'm like, don't say, But anyways, participants on the Board of Governors call Tuesday with NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said they really would like to start playing again. The people on the phone included top NBA All-Stars that included Damian Lillard, Stephen Curry. Steph Curry was on there, Kevin Durant, of course, His Majesty King James, Mr. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and others. They all stated they'd rather go back to play. Now puts this plan into effect where everybody wants to descend on Orlando. As I kiddingly told producer Chris, who's based out of Arizona, everybody wants to come to two states, and they both happen to have the worst summer weather on the earth. Arizona would beat Florida any day of the week for temperature-wise, but Florida's still pretty muggy, and I couldn't imagine having all those athletes and trying to figure out how they're going to do this. So it will be amazing to see how all of this goes as we move forward. But that is the news for you today. We have a great show in store for you. So while we're done with the news, now it's time for us to get to the point. So our first guest, and I pray that I say his name correctly, and I actually worked on it because I do my best. And you guys know I'm challenged by any name that happens to be Italian. So here we go with the next one. And I do this out of I'm just snarky and smart ass. So our first guest is an amazing doctor, an actual doctor. He's even wearing a white jacket, so that makes him ridiculously doctor-like. But our first guest is Dr. Anuj Shah, or Shah. I'm going to go with that. because that's what we're going to go with. That's our first guest. He is a cardiovascular surgeon and expert, and he's here to talk about all the health effects that are going on and maybe give us a little insight into the pandemic. So let's welcome our first guest to the show. Doctor, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Eric. Thank you so much for having me. And you actually did a great job in pronouncing my name, so I gotta give you a lot of props. It is Dr. Anuj Shah, so you got that right. But I'm not a cardiothoracic surgeon. I'm interventional cardiologist. So a little technical difference there, which I can't blame you for. But so what we differentiate, we love to actually call ourselves not cardiothoracic surgeon because unlike our surgeon colleagues, we don't open blockages like cutting the chest open. We do everything with minimal catheter-based technique that we are very proud of. So I would like to differentiate myself. But again, thank you for the warm welcome and absolute pleasure to be here. And let me preface this by saying I'm very excited and thank you for your service. Being a veteran, super proud of you and it's an amazing show that you've created. So glad to be here.
Well, Doc, I want to thank you for attending. When we started this show, we always devoted Thursdays to our first responders and our military. And I told my team, I said, you know what? I also consider our healthcare workers. You guys are our front line of defense during probably my lifetime has been the worst pandemic I've ever seen and been through. So I was like, we're putting first responders and healthcare providers on here, which is kind of funny. Your guys' world blends here on this show because our first guest is you, who obviously is a healthcare provider, as a doctor. And our last guest is a New York City firefighter, retired, but his organization has been key in providing masks to first responders and healthcare providers in the tri-state. So kind of a cool day today. And in between, we've got some Marines and some Navy people and some Army guys to go in between just to make it a fun episode. But let's talk briefly about the coronavirus. Obviously, you're in the tri-state. And I let in early in the news that there's so much data out there, right? And everybody's armchair quarterbacking everything that takes place with the pandemic. What is your thoughts? I'd love somebody who actually wears a white jacket and knows what they're talking about to kind of give us your opinion. Granted, I'm not going to say that you're the expert in it, but I'd love your opinion as someone who's been medically trained. What's your thoughts on where we're going and how bad this virus truly is?
Yeah, it's obviously very bad. Again, I am, one of the people who is dealing with the COVID-19 crisis from the beginning. As you said, it is probably the worst pandemic any of us has ever seen. It's the only pandemic in the last century, after the Spanish flu. So it's completely unprecedented. And the number of challenges that we are seeing, it's beyond the scope of like an individual getting COVID-19 infection, right? So we are talking about COVID-19 causing infection in one individual and person and the health crisis that comes at individual level. But then a way bigger crisis comes at the systematic level because it's creating an influx of number of really sick individuals in a very short span. So, and this actually proves the point that we are all human, humans are all connected, right? We live in a society and our fabric is so interwoven and connected that it's what I do and how I make decisions about my own life, healthcare decisions, as well as my social life decisions, impacts you and your loved ones. And that mentality we all need to cultivate and create. So I think so COVID is causing individual crisis. It is creating a crisis on healthcare in general, and then obviously the other financial and society related crisis. So as you said, I was listening to you earlier, and you said, stop being quarterbacks, let Tom Brady and Gronk handle that part, the football analogy they use. I think Anthony Fauci has been our quarterback, for example, you could say that. So in that debate, I would definitely support him. But the problem, that all of us medical professionals are dealing with is lack of data. This virus has come back so quickly. We rely on, when you believe in science, the problem is as a scientist, you need scientific data. And then, in absence of data, it becomes a little bit difficult to prove certain points. And I think that's why a lot of people are unfortunately losing their faith and trust over the scientific process. But I would love to remind everyone that, hey, it's time to pay attention back to science, be patient. I know everybody wants to go out and start living a social life and go back to business and be done with this COVID-19. But we need a little bit more patience, I think.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Doc. So let's talk about it because we're talking about getting back to normal, right? And so elective surgeries are a big topic of choice right now. They started the beginning of May. And I know you have pretty interesting feedback on this. So where do you think, where's that line with elective, especially cardiovascular? Let's talk about that. Where's the line of where we do it? Because you know, in our healthcare domain, America's not great right now, and you actually have a reason why. So let's talk about that.
Sure. Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
I think part of the problem is no surgery is truly elective. Right? Elective means that something could potentially wait a little bit longer, and then how much longer can a surgery wait is very debatable. Most states use the definition that if you can wait up to 3 months, it's considered a truly an elective surgery. Majority of the cardiac or vascular, which is circulation problem, those procedures and surgeries can really wait 3 months. You're talking about potentially someone's heart or limb. So even though it may not be an emergent surgery, it's not quite elective. So there's a huge gray zone in between, and in what we call the urgency. And you can, again, in football terms, you can punt the ball for you can punt the football only a few times. So you can punt the surgery, say, okay, we'll reconsider that in 2 weeks when things get better. Reconsider in 2 weeks. Now we have patients and folks who are waiting, whose limbs are about to fall off, and they have been waiting for since like March, and their procedure and surgeries were delayed. So now those are considered elective, and now we started doing them from beginning of May. So that's where we stand. There's still a lot of people who have quote unquote stable disease, and we are still waiting to bring them and fix their blockages and stuff like that. So again, it's unprecedented time. On one side, you don't want to ignore people and folks who are dealing with this because you're worried about that they catch coronavirus, B, you take away the precious resources from the hospital and hospital workers. So it's a fine balance. It's a juggling act that we are learning to do. And I think this is why a lot of people compare medical professionals with the army. And one of the things I'm learning is, wow, what it must be at the battlefield, because it requires, you gotta look at the full picture. You can't just look at the enemy who's in front of you, which in this case would be COVID-19, but other enemies that come out, which is scarcity of resources, triaging, making sure who to and what to give priority, and making very important decisions in split second.
Awesome. Well, Doc, that's been some great insight into, I think it's important. People have been talking about elective surgeries. They've been talking about going back to simple things, like even going to your dentist, which was an elective for a long time. But let's also talk about, and it's the final thing I want us to talk about on this time. I'd love to have you back to keep, you have so many things we could talk about. But my final question for you is this. We've heard of different things that COVID-19 is affecting. From now we're hearing children are being affected. There's some new strain that's out there. But there's something called COVID toes. I know that you deal with a lot of amputations. I know diabetes, people that are diabetic are affected by COVID-19. So what's going on there?
Yeah, so COVID is actually a clotting disorder at the end of the day, hypercoagulable. So I'm a vascular specialist. I'm very passionate about preventing amputation. I'm very passionate about improving people's circulation. And one of the major things that we are seeing in COVID patients, and for whatever reason it's not getting that much mainstream attention, I would say, is COVID limbs, right? So COVID is causing this blood clots and blockage problem that's happening in leg veins as well as leg arteries. And we have one famous example of Nick Cordero, who unfortunately had to go for an amputation surgery because he had an ECMO catheter. But there are plenty of other people who ended up getting this massive blood clots in their arteries and veins and causing a lot of problems. So that's why COVID is bringing this vascular disease and circulation problem issue to the forefront. Having said that, I do want to mention, since you being veteran, the amputation rate and diabetic foot ulcers in general in veterans are astronomically high. Most people imagine that people who combat the war and combat the battle, if they end up losing their limbs, it would be because of combat injuries. In reality, large majority of the veterans in this country end up losing their limbs like rest of the population because of diabetes, diabetic foot ulcers, and serious circulation problems. More than 70 to 80,000 per year. The most unfortunate aspect of this is a large majority of them, 80 to 90% of them are preventable. And this is what I'm very passionate about because diabetic foot ulcers and amputation are next to death sentence. Once a person get amputation, their risk of survival is as bad as getting stage 4 cancer. And the cost and the burden that we are dealing with, it's tremendous. So I know VA is making some efforts in raising awareness about these issues. VA is making some effort in preventing. But if COVID crisis is teaching anything, that the circulation problems have to be taken very seriously and not wait till a crisis actually hits you. That's like saying your house is on fire and now you're thinking of having a fire alarm. I think the time to put a fire alarm is when things are quiet. So I think when people have leg pains, any discoloration, ulcers, especially if they're diabetic or they have blood pressure, cholesterol, smoking issues, they need to pay attention to their circulation, and because that's the name of the game. So I think everything is tied down. In my opinion, we are doing our best in helping COVID-related patients who get these tremendous blood clots. A lot of them could have been avoided had people addressed their underlying risk factors.
Awesome, Doc. Thanks for that amazing insight. And if you have time, we'd love to have you back on really soon again to keep deep diving in. You are fabulous. The guests on the side, they are just talking about how informative you are. And it's great. This is truly, I mean, to kind of go a little bit long here with you, it is truly good to finally have a doctor that we can ask questions to, because I think problem for the last 8 weeks is we haven't been given any true insight, because obviously it's hard to talk to your physician. They're not going to want to talk to thousands and thousands of people, but having folks like you, experts, come on and us be able to ask you questions and you give your professional feedback. You are a professional. It is so key. And I can tell you, all of the people who are tuning in right now are very excited to hear what you're sharing, that they're getting some good insight. They're like, finally, we're not getting that. We see fighting amongst everybody and turning it into politics. And that's not why you guys go to school. You go to school to save lives and make our lives better. So we thank you for that, Doc. So I want to thank you for coming on today. Let's have you back real soon. And I hope you have a great week.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And looking forward to coming back. Again, great forum. And thank you for your services. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. I should probably stop dancing in between. You guys are going to see me dance almost on every one of these things. Anyways, our next guest is a good friend of mine. You've seen him before on our show. You've probably listened. Definitely, if you're in the military, you've most likely heard his podcast on Stars and Stripes. He runs a company called Clear Camo, and they help you with building podcasts. And I know we're always talking about podcasts. We're going to have Rod Rodriguez on, and we're going to talk about new media. And we're going to deep dive into why new media is here to stay and why you should be part of new media. What's going on, Rod?
What is happening? Eric Mitchell to the point once again. Love it, baby. Love it.
I love it. So before we get going, I want to remind everybody who's listening and watching right now, make sure you smash that subscribe button, like, share, tell all your friends. And then while you're at it, go check out whatever podcast Rod wants you to go check out. I know, go to Stars and Stripes and go check out their amazing podcast. But while you're here, and if you're in YouTube, smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when we're on air. Okay. So, Rod, new media. It's everywhere.
You just did it right now.
Yeah, it is.
That's media.
Yeah, that's what I love about this is not only do we have you, but our following guest who, your guys' content. I told Matt Kachera this yesterday. I was like, there are some amazing veterans just crushing it with content. I think your content stands up above the rest because you just get down to the brass tacks. There's no politics behind it. And then the guest after you is, obviously I have mad love for him. He's a fellow brother Marine, but Rich Cardona is just amazing the way that he produces content day in and day out all over LinkedIn. Like, you watch it and you're not like, it's not cheesy, right? Where you see so much cheesy content. But my point about new media is, and I just told my team this morning, I said, do you see how many mainstream media outlets are now going live and sharing things on social media, on Facebook? They're converting over because their ratings are just starting to dump on cable because we're at home and this is easier to dissect. It's easier to get an hour to come on our show or before our show. If you have time at 9 o'clock Pacific or 12 p.m. Eastern, you tune into our friends over at Liquid Lunch. You get different news that's not lobbyist controlled. And then you talk about podcasting. And I'm a huge fan of podcasts. Obviously, you run a podcast and you help people create them. Why do you think new media is so catchy?
Well, first of all, you would never have caught Ted Koppel back in the 80s talking about, hey, make sure you like ABC News. Or, even 5 years ago, you wouldn't have caught people saying, go visit my social media or, in the Today Show or whatever. They would put it up there. It wasn't that big of a deal. COVID-19 hits. And I think that this disease, for all of its terrible things, changed the media landscape. So what we now have are celebrities and guests that can't go to those studios. They won't go to those studios. What we're doing right now, we're having a remote show. So what they realized very quickly was, oh my God, we need to retain our viewers. We need to capture what YouTubers, what podcasters, what was considered alternative media 2 years ago, 3 years ago, is now the new mainstream. We were ahead of the power curve. So absolutely, this new media is now media. The new media is going to be immersive media. Mark my words, the next thing you're going to start hearing about is virtual reality and augmented reality podcasts, augmented reality shows, where we won't have the split screen thing. I'm going to sit with you in your studio and you're going to be talking to air, but to your viewer, it's going to seem like I'm there. That's the new media. But what we're doing right now is we're revolutionizing the landscape of what is possible. And what you brought up with the politics, honestly, that's the scary thing. That's what worries me absolutely the most.
Yeah, politics is funny, right? And I've said this on the show a number of times, and I don't pick a side. That's not my goal with this show, is never to pick a side. But my feelings are this, is I turn on and I watch these press conferences. For some reason, they need to be daily. And I don't really think we get very much information out of them because it's information overload. And it turns into whose kiddie pool is bigger and better and who wants to cannonball whose kiddie pool on any given day. And I think we've lost control. We've lost complete focus on what we're trying to do. And I don't know if it's because you and I and our guests took an oath and we understand what an oath means, that it's like, look, we have a job to do. At the end of the day, we understand we may give our life for our country, but we love every American and we don't care. We even love the idiot flag burners. Yes, I would want to use a baseball bat to them. True, I would, but they have a right. We support that Constitution. I've had the pleasure and honor of going to the National Archives and seeing that beautiful document. And yes, I tear up when I see it. It's a beautiful document. I think we've lost focus, and mainstream media has been the biggest cause of this wildfire. Alexis Haynes just said Tuesday, the problem is how many people have turned into the tinfoil hat wearing folk over the last few weeks. Everybody's an expert, but nobody's really an expert. And I blame mainstream media. And that's why I'm happy to see podcasts and shows like ours come out and get to the real story and share the real news and give you real data.
So that's where I have to disagree with you. I don't think it's the mainstream media. I think it's us. I think it's the podcast. I think it is the YouTube. I think it is the Facebook. I think it is all of what was considered alternative, the new media, as you will. The problem is new media gave a lot of voice. It amplified voices that otherwise the media, traditional media, would have suppressed. Now, in a lot of cases, this is a good thing. When we're talking about tyrannical governments, when we're talking about getting the news out of places like North Korea, Iran, China, when we're trying to get the real facts and we're trying to get into those places, yes, new media is amazing. Podcast, YouTube, Periscope, you name it. But it also gave a platform for people to come out and go, like Dr. Shah, for example. There is nothing to stop me. There is no producer. There's no media source to say, Rod, you can't say Dr. Shah is incredible. Now, you know what? In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what, Dr. Shah, I'm going to question his qualifications. Is he a virologist? Is he this? Is he that? And did you know Dr. Shah is actually part of the Illuminati, and he's in with Bill Gates, and he helped create COVID? There's nothing to stop people from saying lunacy. And the problem with that is they have the platform, and unfortunately, the American public loves it. They eat it up. It is become what daytime television was. It is the opiate of the masses. They dig it. They love it. They can't get enough of it. And greedy people, greedy folks see it, and they see $1 to be made. So we're going to see an uptick. If you thought, what was that guy's name? The big dude that used to yell about gay frogs and
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. If you think Alex Jones was bad, what's coming is going to make Alex Jones look like Connie Chung. Mark my words.
Wow. You know, a true story. It's funny you brought up Alex Jones. We've gone through so many different graphics for Behind Me. And one of them that I really liked, but I was like, why does this look familiar? And at InfoWars, I was watching a documentary on HBO about like bashing on the guy, which I love anybody who bashes on him because that dude's just freak off his rocker. I was like, we're not running that graphic. It looks too close to what his is behind me. We're going to stick to the stripes and the blue. And yeah, I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that. So it is funny that we talk about Alex Jones. And you truly can go on social, but you can go on mainstream media and say just about anything. And it can be censored. And before we go, this is what I have for you. I've noticed lately censorship on Facebook or social in general is all over the place. People are having things removed. One of our favorite guests on our show, who we proudly support, Josh Phillips from Epic Times, they do amazing investigative reporting. I can't speak English today. Their videos are taken down so often. It blows my mind that a pro-democracy, Chinese American owned media outlet, who's not really picking a political side in their videos, has their videos punished. Do you see this happening in podcasting too, where you're going to be censoring these outlets where we're able to release, where they're choosing what is news and what is not news?
Well, here's the thing people need to remember is that Facebook is not an American institution. There is no guiding foundation. It's not the American government. Facebook is Zuckerberg's baby. It is a private company, private industry. We all signed up to use it. The idea that I am entitled to Facebook is ludicrous. I am not entitled to Facebook or YouTube or any of my social media channels. The minute I signed up for it, I, like most of you, did not read the fine print that said, hey, this is someone else's company. If we don't like your message, we can cut you off. Now, that's your responsibility as a business owner. Look, I own Clear Commo Studios. We make podcasts for folks. Do you think I'm going to help produce a podcast for neo-Nazis? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's
I hope
crazy.
not.
Right. Now, I could stand up and say, well, for the freedom of speech, we're going to publish whatever people bring to us. No, I have a responsibility as part of the media, as part of this new media, to be responsible about what I promote and what I create. What's great about this is you don't need a Clear Commo. You don't need a Rich Cardona. You don't need any of us. You can go and produce this on your own. It's going to look like you were producing something through 2 tin cups in grandma's basement, but you can produce it on your own. Now, should I get mad at Facebook for taking down my videos or taking down someone else's videos? No. If you are creating content they don't like, go somewhere else. There are a lot of other social media platforms, but you can't get upset because, well, they're not as big as Facebook. Well, that's capitalism. That is the nature of the beast. So get used to it.
Yeah, I feel you there. So I want to thank you for coming on, Bud. We've been sharing on here, but folks can get a hold of you at Clear Commo. That's for if you have podcasting questions. A lot of people are asking how to start a podcast, and I'm trying to tell people, yes, you can start it on your own. I think you said it best, saying it's going to look not the greatest, but just like all the YouTubers that we've been interviewing lately, you got to get in front of a camera. I know Rich is probably going to support me on that. I've seen his videos about getting in front of your camera and just getting comfortable. Stop worrying about the little things. I know Brian Fanzo has been quoted as saying, just push the damn button and just do it. That's how it gets done. Instead of like, oh, it needs to look like, and trust me, we're just as guilty here on this show as we built it. We started with a webcam and like lights.
Got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. And it's funny watching. I mean, 30 days tomorrow we launched. So I'm laughing at the quality of what we have today as I went back and looked at our first episode yesterday and I started chuckling. I was like, wow, we were all over the place. Like, what was I thinking? But anyways, Rod, I want to thank you for coming on today. Let's have you back real soon. And Simplify, my friend.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, bud. We do not support graffiti artists, but if you do graffiti, do to the point. Just make sure to take a picture and use the hashtag to the point. Just saying. Anyways, our next guest that we're going to get to the point with is an amazing veteran, amazing entrepreneur who served in the United States Marine Corps. Yes, every Thursday there at least has to be one Marine besides me on the show. Yes, it's true. It's a requirement. It is. You'll figure it out. Last week was all Marine, so we only have one Marine this week. But he has amazing content. You've seen him. He's talked to the likes of Gary Vee and amazing other people. His content on LinkedIn is a must-watch on an everyday basis. You will learn things. And I'm just blown away by his content. Sometimes I don't even hear what he says. I'm just like, dude, that is just ridiculously good content. Our next guest is Rich Cardona. So let's get to the point with Mr. Cardona. Rich, how are you doing today, bud?
I am well. How are you?
You know, another day. The sun went away in the Pacific Northwest, and we're back to doom and gloom. So I was chuckling in the news when we were talking about springtime doesn't exist. I'm like, you have no idea how bad it is when you don't have sun, and we don't get a lot of it till like July 5th. And but they did open the beaches. They announced beaches will open May 18th. So we're all like, thank God. People are like running to the ocean here.
Yeah, like literal silver lining.
Like, we're like, please open it up. I'm like, I have my teenager, like they were watching a press conference from the governor today here talking about what counties were going to start reopening tomorrow. And I had to break the bad news to him. Unfortunately, our county was not on the list. They did not even apply to open tomorrow, which was kind of that cringe. But anyways, We're doing good. How are you handling the wonderful lockdown?
Honestly, I mean, nothing has changed. That is the beauty of having a virtual business, working remotely, working on your systems and processes. And, you know, when it comes to video work and living in a digital world, I'm not, and, you know, I don't mean that in the wrong way. I'm just saying I have not felt anything except a little bit of a surge as people have realized more and more the importance of personal branding and just branding. I mean, it's off to the races. I feel like there was just a surge like, uh-oh. And then here we are. So the phone calls are coming in, the inbox is full, and I'm happy about that. But I'm also happy at the opportunity to serve, of course.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing, like I let in about your content. I mean that wholeheartedly. It is amazing as someone who owns an agency and is always telling my clients to practice and use video content. Don't just depend on what you're getting on the TV. That's great content, but you should be creating video content. And what's funny is you've been producing this long before the coronavirus hit and it became the cool thing to do. And in fact, Gary Vee mentors you, and Gary's been talking about you need to use video. And then you have like Brian Fanzo, who's like, push the damn button, get in front of your camera. I mean, I can list people over and over who've been screaming it from the mountaintop, and so many people are like, no, you don't. Yeah, just do a post on LinkedIn. And I'm like, go do a post and then do a video post to see which one gets more views and more interaction and more engagement. So So how hard is it for folks to do video content? Like how hard is it or how easy it is? How do people get started? Let's talk about making it the gateway.
It's as hard as you make it. So like, let's look at it this way. Everything you just said, everything I'm saying right now, if it was in a transcript and we were reading it, it would be completely boring. The fact that I get to see your mannerisms, hear your tone, your tonality, see you get riled up on certain subjects, like that is the beauty of video content. Now, everyone is always reluctant to start with video content because they're like, what are people going to think? No one cares about my message. I have nothing meaningful to say anyway. How am I going to sound? How am I going to look? Well, let me put it to you this way. when there was answering machines, those things, back in the day, I think a little bit about those as well. If you ever heard yourself on an answering machine, you're like, oh, I sound awful. But guess what? The message is not for you. If you sound awful and you're calling and leaving a voicemail or a message for someone, like, it's important to get that message across. Well, the same thing goes here. The video is not for you. The video is for other people. And it is so unbelievably important that you realize, as a business owner, as a brand, or whatever it may be, that visibility is what's going to highlight your value. And yes, of course, you mentioned it. Like, yeah, Gary's like really got me in the document, don't create. And I mean, I posted today about the fact that I haven't had a drink in over a year. And this is like one of my high performing posts. And I cannot tell you the amount of inbox messages like me too, and all these other, and all these different successes people have had. And then probably every third one is like, I'd love to learn more about your business. There has to be the beginning, which means you have to just start getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And by that, I mean, of course, yeah, just press record, but think about what people can get from you in terms of value added content in which you're teaching them something, you're inspiring them, you're motivating. 9 times out of 10, whatever it is that you want to talk about just because you want to talk about it is probably not that interesting. If you are an expert in real estate, talk about real estate trends. If you are an expert in finance, talk about the impact of COVID-19. If you are in personal branding like I am, I'm going to tell you, you need to get in front of the camera, and all you need is an iPhone. You don't need a ring light. You don't need a camera. You don't need a GoPro. You don't need any of that stuff. What you need to do is just focus on the people who can benefit from getting your message. Forget the metrics and just deliver the message.
I love that. Forget the message, deliver the metrics. That's perfect. That's solid. I mean, that's exactly how it should be. So hold on. I'm gonna put us, there we go. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make us side by side. It's weird. It's like the voice of God talking to you. It's like being in the infantry again. There's somebody saying my name. But one of the great things about your content is you educate folks. But one of the questions I get a lot, just from people who are in general, from every guest that we seem to put on. Number one, I do want to congratulate you. 1 year without a drink is impressive. We just had a recovery episode Tuesday where we had Alexis Haynes on and Anna David, and she's 20 years without drugs or alcohol.
Insane. That's insane.
It should be welcome. That is a difficult choice. It is one of those weird moments, especially being in the military, where you say, hey, we should get a drink, which seems to be very normal. And you feel bad, where I've always like of tea or coffee or water, or whatever you choose, because so many folks are not drinking. I mean, and I happen to be one of them. I'm not a big drinker as it is. So I could quit in a heartbeat. But some of my friends, I'm like, they're drinking more than ever. Like,
I know. Like, trust me.
It's hard. I mean, and trust me, I love bourbon, but
same here.
It's easier to walk away from. But let me ask you this. If I was Joe Blow on the street and I wanted to jump into video and start producing content from my brand, just to grow my own personal brand, where do I start?
Where's your audience? Your audience is everywhere, but you have to figure out 2 things right off the bat. One of them is, what platform caters to me and my personality? Because look, if I go on Instagram and I don't like what Instagram's about, I don't want to tailor myself to that type of content, then it's just going to be like running a marathon that you didn't sign up for. Like, you just don't want to do that. If I go on to LinkedIn and I realize that my clientele, I mean, this is literally me, are C-suite executives, they're there. And I'm going to be on it because I have a message, and my message is, no one knows anything about you and you have a lot of knowledge to share. So I'm going to help you get branded, and that way everyone knows you. And by the way, if you're at a company that you've been on and you don't see yourself getting promoted, maybe someone else at another company is going to allow you to make that lateral shift, or maybe get a promotion and start somewhere else a little bit higher. So that's where my audience is. Facebook. Okay, if I have a product or service, maybe Facebook is where it's at. What is that product or service? Do the research. But if you are someone who's has not started video content, I think exploring the platforms is so unbelievably important. If you try and say, well, I'm going to be on Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and TikTok, then you're just going to spread yourself thin because you're not going to enjoy the process. Where is your audience? Who needs what you have? And look, you know this phrase, and we've heard it in the Marine Corps a million times, like, don't fall in love with your plan. Just because you love your product or your service doesn't mean a damn thing. Okay. Like, the people and the market are going to tell you what's good and what's not. Now, as far as just starting content itself, look, all you need is a phone. You could go live on any platform, anytime, anywhere, but all you need is your phone in order to make a video. You don't need a video editing team. You don't need me. You don't need a microphone. You don't need a lot of this stuff. You can just do it on your phone. But my biggest advice, if you wanted to start, is just explore everything you've been avoiding about social media because you think it's awful and it's just stupid content and people just making themselves look like they're living their best life. There are people out there like you, like me, like Rod, who put out good information that is going to help someone in some way. And if you do that over and over and over, things start to happen. I just want to share this really quick. I was doing my stats this morning. I was like, I wonder what May 2018 to May 2019 looked like for me versus May 2019 to May 2020. I had 220,000 views total, 2018 to 2019 on LinkedIn. And then it was 1,018,000 the last year. And all I did was increase my post by about 15%, but I started figuring it out. It's quantity, 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 quantity until you figure out the quality, and then you build your community.
I love that. Well, Rich, I want to thank you for joining us today. You have amazing insight, and I'm encouraging folks to go follow you on LinkedIn where I see your content. You definitely hit your audience right on the nose there. I know you look for the C-suite. You absolutely have the content I look for every morning when I turn on my LinkedIn. I'm like, there it is. I saw your video today. It's always really well done. And I'm like, how does he do this? Because I want to do these walkabout and talking videos. I always kid with our photographer we have on staff at LifeFlip. I'm like, how do we do these? How do we do the walkabouts? I'm like, and I always use your video. And he's an Army vet. He's like, I'm going to reach out to him and just figure out what he's using. And I'm like, well, no, we should probably pay him. We should be like, hey, what are you using so we can totally steal your content? Not a cool look. But I do want to thank you. So folks, if they do want to reach out to you, obviously Rich Cardona, they can find you on LinkedIn. We have all of your content right below. And also while you're going to do that, don't forget to smash the subscribe button for our show. Also go over and follow Rich's company on all his social and follow him on LinkedIn. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed and it will help your brand. And of course, if you're in the C-suite and your brand needs help, there's no one better that you should be going to than Rich. So Rich, I want to thank you for joining us. Let's have you back on real soon.
Thank you. Semper Fi, man.
Semper Fi, my brother. Now, our next guest, he has a great first name, and his mom even spelled it right. So that's another advantage. He is my brother from another. I absolutely adore this guy. We both are Hill Vet 2017 honorees. So we have that. I've been on his old radio show back in the day. He was running an amazing show that helped veterans on CBS radio that was heard nationwide. He has an amazing radio background. Unfortunately, he's a New York Mets fan, so he's one of the first that we've had on the show. But we all can't be perfect and be Yankee fans. So we will welcome our next. We'll get to the point with our next guest, Eric Dehm. Eric.
You just spoke about my New York Mets in such an unnecessarily and horribly negative way. And then to talk about being perfect as a Yankee fan, it's kind of the opposite of being perfect when you're a Yankee fan. It's being...
I didn't say the Astros or the Red Sox, brother. I said the Yankees.
I like the Red Sox. Bill Buckner, in particular, is my favorite Red Sox of all time. But
of course he is.
Yeah, he's a good one. Good player. He's
a great player. Has a hell of a glove, except for those really slow grounders that roll right between your legs.
Yeah.
You know, he's world famous in Little League. I mean, my son, when he was playing, I remember they're like, get your glove down and your butt down. You don't want to be Buckner. And it's funny to hear that from people like, don't do a Buckner. How have you been, my friend? How's Corona treating you?
Okay, I guess. I mean, kind of in the same boat as everybody else. I recently started a new job. And right as I finished the initial training process for that new job, they said, well, you're going to be working from home. And it's a teaching job. So I'm teaching students from home over the internet. Kind of thankfully, that lines up a little bit with what I've done in the past, TV and radio. I'm comfortable not being with my audience in the same room with me. So that's gone okay. The other aspect is, my lovely wife works in an industry that's very involved with the coronavirus response. So she's been was working for about a month straight, 18 to 20 hour days, 6 to 7 days a week. So my 7-year-old, I was trying to do the best I could to wrangle him, teaching him from home while also doing my new job. So it's been wild, but being from the New York City area, there's a lot of people up there who are having a lot bigger problems than we are down here in the Baltimore.
I guess we lost signal there momentarily. We will be back in a second. I don't know what's going on, but that's the great thing about live streaming is fun technical difficulties. We love them. But anyways, we're talking about New York. I know I love where Eric was going with that. And I led off talking about what Robert De Niro had said about New York. And it's so true about them. Talk about decades of being picked on in every movie that you see with the towers. And then you have everything else. So New Yorkers are resilient as they come. You got to love them. Is Eric back now?
I am, but then I think I was muted for some reason. So that apparently there were some audio issues. So I don't know at what point I got cut off, but hey, we're doing okay.
We were talking about New York. You were talking about being from the great city of New York. Yeah. Obviously, that's where you got your start, besides going into the Navy. But I mean, I was just saying while we were waiting in between, I don't know if you heard the news, but I was reading what Robert De Niro said after the benefit concert, the show they did the other night, with raised $115 million. He was talking about the resilience of the people of New York and how 9/11, the hurricanes, and now COVID, it punches us in the throat, but we get back up. And I think that's why I say New York is truly represents America. It's not the Dallas Cowboys. They're not America's team. I think the city of New York, literally those teams are America's teams because they represent an amazing culture and amazing people.
Yeah, New Yorkers are really from everywhere. I mean, I actually grew up in Connecticut, about 30, 40 minutes away from New York City in Stamford, Connecticut, which is, 150,000 people or so, but it's a suburb of New York City. That's how big the city is in that region. And having, so many friends and family up there, my parents, my in-laws, it's been rough seeing what they've had to deal with, which has been, as I said, quite a bit worse than what we've had to deal with down here in Baltimore.
So you're now teaching. Now, are you teaching military folks media, or exactly what do you do? Exactly who are you teaching? I know your background is in media, so you're teaching classes remotely. What are you teaching?
So I am teaching basically mass communications to, members of the United States military. So we're talking TV, radio, print journalism, photography, public affairs, all of that, all the things that you need to know. I do that now, and also working on some stuff on the side. I got some audio things getting started that, because of the coronavirus and some other stuff, got delayed a little bit longer than I hoped they would be, but should be back on the air for my tens of fans to be able to listen to again soon.
Hey, you have one of the best voices on the air, man. You need to be on air. I miss your voice on the radio, my friend. I always listen to your podcast hours after you did it because I was not going to be up at like 3 a.m. when you started filming those things on our coast. But, it's interesting. So how do you see media changing right now, right? As somebody who was in the media, and obviously you work with our awesome active duty, I mean, media is kind of a mess, right? To me, I've never seen such disarray when you look at a press conference, and we're all military guys that are on here, or doctors, or fire, or first responders. So we don't work under this mass chaos very well. We're used to organized chaos, but this mass chaos of you never know who actually has the right word in what you're getting. So what's your thoughts on this new form of communication that we're getting during a virus where you think we would get precise information? Instead, we're getting, he said this, they said this. Oh, by the way, don't like the doctor who has tons of experience in it. He's bad because somehow he has a picture he took with Bill Gates. I'm like, oh my God, like, is that bad? Or we're going to trust the guy who's a reality TV star? Because it's just so many fingers that you can point. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think that where we are right now is maybe the destination that we've been heading to for a very long time. As more avenues of getting information out to people became available, the audience became more spread out, which meant that different aspects of the media, whether you're talking about television, radio, the internet, newspapers, which still exist in some places, they have had to try to do anything they could to get those viewers, get those readers, get those listeners. And they would put things out that maybe they wouldn't otherwise. That clickbait, as we talk about it, which means different things to different people. So, I think that's why you see something like yesterday, I saw on Twitter, people going crazy over Greta Thunberg, the climate activist, being added to a discussion panel on the coronavirus. I'm not sure what a 17-year-old who hasn't gone to school in 2 years knows about epidemiology or anything like that, but it's going to get eyes on it, and it got people talking, which is what they're looking for. And now, with what's happened with COVID-19, you're actually seeing people lose their jobs and cutbacks. My previous workplace that you know very well, which was CBS and then Entercom, Entercom has cut staff across the board, and those who have stayed on have all gotten salary reductions. So now you've got people who may look to other jobs, probably the most qualified people. So when they leave, who's going to replace them? Yeah, there are new students coming out of journalism schools and things like that around the country and broadcasting schools, but you're also going to have people who maybe would have been your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth choice for that job who are going to say, well, I'll do it. I don't care what I'm being paid. And then the quality is going to kind of digress from there. And it's worrisome, and it's difficult to know where to get the right information from. Who's giving you the right information? You look at that CNN panel with Greta Thunberg. This is an organization that's basically told people, if you're not a doctor, a scientist, an epidemiologist, then your opinion is essentially moot and you need to listen to the experts. And then they put a 17-year-old on an expert panel. So there's just so much competing information out there. There's so much partisanship where people are just wanting to screw the other guy over, whoever the other guy happens to be to them. It's unfortunate. And as a proud member of the news and sports and all these other types of media over the years, it really saddens me to see it happening this way.
It is crazy, right? I mean, it's just, Greta. And then I said earlier this week, I was picking on Tommy Loren because she suddenly became a race relations expert on Monday. And I was chuckling. I'm like, you only get comments. I don't know. I mean, I don't even want to go and speculate how she gets them. But I mean, I know it's a visual thing. I know how the news works, but it's like, stop. I know you're just chiming in, but you have no idea what you're talking about. To say that we're all not getting fed the right information about what went on in Brunswick, Georgia, and the first 20 people that are interviewed are people of color saying, yeah, we got to be careful where we walk in this town because there's very much racism here. And then Brunswick comes out with a PR release 2 days ago. We're getting a bad name. We're not monsters here. Yeah. We're not. And all of a sudden, I'm like, go look at everybody they're interviewing. You might want to. It's just crazy. I'd like to have you back. I'd like to jump into sports. We could go forever. But how do you feel about the possible realignment? Well, you'll be facing the Yankees 12 times this season, and neither team gets to throw batteries or anything at the Houston Astros, which they deserve to have many things. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Dodgers facing them because it'll be a beatdown.
Well, hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying is the old thing. It'll be interesting to see what happens with baseball. My other favorite sport, mixed martial arts, started back up again this past weekend, and they have fights again last night that I was watching. We've got, hi, John. We've got the baseball season hopefully coming because it's my favorite. I watch, 150 games a year probably. I miss a handful of Mets games, but I watch most of them. Hey, if you want to go up against Pete Alonso and Jake DeGrom 12 times a year, you have fun with that, son. Oh, I think we may have lost Eric. Well, welcome to the Point with Eric Dehm. I'm the new host of the show.
I'm producer Chris. You don't see me much, but Eric, thank you for joining us today as we get Eric back here. He looks like he's up, so I'll put him back up in the screen.
Look, I'm back. I love technical difficulties.
I thought they fired you and figured with me having the same first name, it'd be easy to change all the graphics, and I'm in charge.
Right? They had it. They were like, all we have to do is just change that Mitchell underneath the to the point. We got this. So they're like, his voice is much better than his. But you, brother, I love having you on the show. You are one of my absolute favorites. We should have you on as often as you'd like to come on. You're always welcome. You are absolutely one of my favorite people in media. So thank you again, bud, for everything you do, and we'll talk to you really soon.
Thank you for having me, and again.
See you soon, bud. And our next guest, they say that you save the best for last, and I generally, I believe that. And I also believe that the NYFD is simply the best of the best. So our next guest was a firefighter for over 21 years in New York City. He is a stand-up comic now. He is funny. John Larocchia will be joining us. He does head an amazing organization called Laughter Saves Lives that is devoted and started because of his fellow brother firefighters that were lost on 9/11. So let's welcome to the show the one and only John Larocchia. John.
Thank God, the one and only. You don't want two of this. You don't want two of this thing. Hey, I'm down my basement again after I was quarantined for 4 weeks. Down my basement doing Eric's show again.
It's a problem. Will they let you out of the basement, or do they keep sending you food down the laundry chute?
They keep sliding it down. Eric, you're looking for information. You're looking in the wrong place. I heard you talk. Go to a firehouse kitchen. You'll get all the legal, the medical, all the information you need. None of it correct. You will get right there.
Oh, so it's like the Lance Corporal underground in the military. Absolutely. Just go to a barracks. You will hear everything you should not hear and give the worst advice ever. Firehouses, I have heard police stations. I've heard anywhere you go that we're all congregating, the data will usually be very incorrect. And you'll be like...
And you're talking, by the way, to another Mets fan. I know. And you know, I was at spring training, Eric. I was at spring training. That was we were having a ball down there, and then we came home and everything hit the fan.
And now I hear that A-Rod and J-Lo, they backed out of purchasing the Mets. And I hear it's all based because of your ownership group has these crazy requirements, which is buy the team, but we get to take all the glory. I'm like,
buy the team, but we want to still run everything. And attend all the games, and you're not allowed to come to the games. You have to stay home. And can I mention something quick, because I don't want to forget? Sure. Just got off the phone with retired NYPD John Solano out of Texas. He runs a wonderful organization, hashtag Walk the Bridge. And they're shining a light. They're bringing attention to all the suicides in the military and the PD. And hashtag Walk the Bridge. Check it out. They walk the bridge in, now you're talking from a New York guy. It's in Texas on Highway 66, Rockwell and Rowlett, I think it is, every month. Hashtag Walk the Bridge. So check that out. I told him I would mention it on the show. And
always welcome here.
That's my time. Okay.
No, you're done. No. And gong. No. And I'm aging myself. I think you and I know the Gong Show, but some of our millennials are like,
yes. He's a good man, though, and I told John I would mention it.
Yeah, when we had Mike the cop on a few weeks ago, I wanted to dive into that because obviously it is, this show is based off of our first responders, healthcare providers, and our veterans. And suicide amongst the ranks is horrible, especially amongst first responders and obviously in the military. So I do want to, anytime you need to push that out, I always encourage it.
We want to make it. I was involved with marriage retreat, sharing feelings, guys sharing feelings. After 9/11, we had counselors come to the firehouse, and the guys didn't want to talk to them, and we used to meet every day because we lost 19 in my house, and the guys were like, I'm not going to sit down. And he came to me finally because he saw that I was kind of into it, and he said, what do I do to get these guys to talk to me? And I said, just come in every day, throw donuts on the kitchen table, and talk about the Mets and the Yankees. And ultimately, they hit him with a bucket of water off the roof. And he was so happy because he was in. So we need to make people feel comfortable, guys feel comfortable that they can come out and talk about depression and these thoughts and feelings, because you know how it goes for guys years. We don't do that. We don't do that. And after 9/11, we had one of our guys commit suicide a year later. And it was very upsetting because he was in the firehouse every day and he was one of us and he was kidding around and we had no idea. We had no idea. So hashtag Walk the Bridge. John Solano, that's for you, my friend.
Absolutely. So John Salerno, I see him in our feed. So John, if you want to drop your information in there while we're going, you are more than welcome to, my friend. We proudly support your organization and we will add it in post. So while we're talking about what you can find after the show, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and hit that notification button so you know when John is on the show or anyone else. But make sure you smash that subscribe button so you can be notified when we're on air.
And have him on one week. If I don't mean to put you on the spot, but he's done a lot of good work out there in Texas. LaughterSavesLives.org. Can we talk a little bit about Laughter Saves?
Yes, that's where we're going next. I wanted to talk about the last time you were on. We were talking about your amazing video-thon that you did with some pretty funny comics. I mean, for Zoom, I enjoyed it. I was laughing yesterday because Kate Quigley was talking about doing these Zoom comedy shows.
Oh, I just did one.
Yeah, weren't you doing one right before you came on here?
Yes, they're so difficult, and people like hiding themselves. They don't have their mics on. I'm like, how am I going to hear you laugh if your mic is off? You have me doing comedy in my basement. Turn your freaking mic on. I mean, I want to hear you go, ha ha. You know, I'm looking at a blank screen.
So your guys' telethon that you guys did, or a videothon, or whatever, Zoomathon or Laughathon, whatever we want to call it, the thon, you were able to get some N95 masks for first responders.
Yes. Now,
how did that go?
Good. We have a need. We gave them out to people who needed them. The issue was they were held up in China. They were held up in California. They were the KN95s, not the N95s. So a lot of the people, a lot of the facilities and organizations don't use N95s when you're dealing with patients, but you can use them for other things. Hand them out to veterans who are going into the hospital for a checkup. FDNY, we gave them to retirees with 9/11 related illness who needed them. So there was a need. In fact, EMS is coming in a little while to pick up a bunch. So we did it, but I'm out of the mask business now. It was so stressful. And now I'm getting into, let's feed some of these people who aren't eating. Let's collect some food. So we made one drop off locally to a soup kitchen, food pantry, and we're going to do that again.
Awesome. Is there any information out there that we could get out there to help? So folks that are around, whether it's donations online, I mean, everything helps. How can people get a hold of help that?
Drop a can of peas off on my steps tonight. No. They can always go to LaughterSavesLives.org. I haven't initiated the next drop off. I brought all the food there the first time. So we're going to organize another one in the coming days.
It's so great. Your organization just is always outreaching, and it's great to see you don't just serve first responders, which you totally could, but you've also included veterans into that. And I think that's incredible, because truly I believe that veterans and first responders are very much bred the same way. I know a lot of my brothers and sisters get out and go into it. As a guy in the infantry, law enforcement was the calling for most of us. It was like, what are you going to do? Let's see, wear a uniform every day, carry a gun. Already do that. That's simple. It's
right.
It's just usually an uglier uniform. Everybody wanted to be a firefighter, but you guys have actual rough requirements to become a firefighter. So I've heard that from a number of people that it's
yes, you had to be in tip-top shape. That's why I made it, because I was in tip-top shape back then, and now I couldn't run to the firehouse. And I try to keep in shape. You got me into trouble, by the way. I have to box Lisa. I had her on my show the other night, and she's not backing down. She's not. That was funny, John. No, she wants to kill me, and I'm blaming it on you that she wants to kill me.
Oh, we're gonna cover it. Butch and I already started. We've got this thing. We're gonna have media. I'm gonna be your ring announcer. Oh yeah, we're gonna make this big.
Scared of her. She doesn't blink. But the other thing I wanted to say about Laughter Saves Lives is that everything we do is in memory of our guys, to remember our guys. No matter what we do. We changed the name. I'm working on a new comedy tour. I have been working on it. We're going to start playing with it on Zoom to introduce people to but it was the Laughter Saves Lives, Responders, and Military Tour. All the comics have that background. After what we went through and the heroes that we see now, we changed it and added healthcare professionals. So we're going to use some nurses that I know that are comics, and some PAs and some EMS, and even my buddy who's a chef in an assisted care facility, Pat Marone, one of our comics. He has done unbelievable work with bringing the food to the rooms as opposed to serving them, keeping their people's spirits up. So I'm really looking forward to introducing that tour over the coming months when we start being able to get back out there.
I love it, and I can't wait for the boxing match. I'm really excited about that.
Stop.
I think everybody is. I mean,
I told you I'm advertising on the bottom of my shoes. I told you that, right?
You are. It's that, yeah.
Because I'm going to be laying on the ground at one point with my shoes up.
I mean, you've seen the photos of her boxing, right? I mean, this isn't like, yeah, like she's boxed. I mean, and by the way, we actually were able to kind of humble her last Thursday because we led with Kirstie Enos, who lost her leg in a helo crash in Afghanistan, another United States. We had her and Lisa on 2 Marine Corps door gunners that you probably don't want to cross on any day of the week. Kirstie attempted to climb Mount Everest, and I loved her story last week. She said, I said, so why didn't you make it to the summit? She's like, well, I made it right below, and I stopped and I turned around, and we made the call not to go, not because of me, but because the folks that were with me, they were running out of oxygen. And you're just sitting there going, you're already a badass as it is. And Lisa's like, that's what I have to follow. That
I don't mean to brag, but there's a park down here, and there's a little mountain, and I climbed that twice the other day.
Sweet.
With my
you throw ice on top so you get the snow feeling?
Yeah, with my grandson, I went up twice.
There you go. Look at you. You're killing it. But is there anything else going on? I mean, before we wrap here, just anything else you want to plug, talk about?
Just, people are you guys talking about not drinking today.
Yeah.
I'm the only New York City fireman that didn't drink beer or coffee.
Oh, wow.
Beer or coffee for 60 years. So put that in your book there.
Wow, that's amazing. I couldn't go without coffee. Beer is okay. I wouldn't miss beer, but coffee.
Well, I like the fact that you had on a vascular. You always put me last because before the show starts, I'm like, oh my God, I'm on the show. I feel so important. And you have on a surgeon, then you have on this guy who was a business. I'm a dopey fireman in my basement here. You have all these people on, and by the time I get up, but listen, he had a heart behind him. I'm gonna put my fire truck.
Because we love you. You're always welcome on our show. You know that. And we save the best for last. I firmly believe that you know my love for the city. You know how I feel about first responders. It's just as equal as my brother veterans that I love to put on the show. And we added, healthcare workers to the show also because I think they are now part of our group because they sincerely answered the call. They've been on the front line. Yeah. They're thrown into all this politics. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she has a client who is a doctor. I just hit puberty when you heard my voice just crack. Pretty cool. It was awesome. I've been waiting all these years, 44 years, finally happened. And she was telling people were upset doctors are doing TikTok dance videos. Oh, why are they doing that? And I'm like, people, stop.
God, give them a break. Let them stress out. Get de-stress. I like what you said about New York, and we fight back. And I'm not talking about myself. All my friends, after 9/11. And I always remember one thing, and I think about this a lot when I'm down. I was depressed last week. When I get depressed, I can't do this anymore. This, whatever. I saw a video of my guys in the lobby of the World Trade Center. We saw a video, months later, and you could hear the people jumping. They were hitting the overpass, and you could see the fear on their face. And they went up the stairs. They still went up in that building. So. You talk about how New Yorkers are. That to me, and also my nurse, Joseph, I'm going to mention her name, friend of mine, scared to death to go into work that she's going to get sick. She goes every night. She goes to that ER in Brooklyn every night, even though she's afraid. And that's a hero, right? I think we talked about the last time. When you're afraid of something and you got to be afraid of something that could hurt you, right? Somebody could shoot you in the military. You got to be a roadside. But when you continue to do your job, that's a hero.
I couldn't agree with you more. You're absolutely correct. It reminds me of the first time ever I was in training, and we do live fire training where we run underneath rounds being fired over our head. Yeah. And you're like, it's all fun and games when it's blanks, but those are real rounds flying over your head, and you're running underneath, and they're like, yeah, keep your head low. It's the same thing with running out of a helicopter, right? I mean, especially CH-53s for when I was in, they're like,
I have no idea.
They have the tail rotor. You don't want to do that because you get a haircut. Rich, who was on earlier, he was an officer in the Marine Corps. He ended up in the Air Wing. He could tell you story after story. They make sure you don't go a certain way. I think it's don't go to the left because the rotor's right there. Right. And then you become like Indiana Jones where, they put the German into the blade.
You can go to the right, but only once, right?
Yeah. It's a one-time deal, and you'll remember it. You'll remember it.
Oh,
You'll be cut up from funniness. Oh, but it's always great having you on, John. We'll have to have you on again real soon.
Can't thank you
And
enough. Have
let us
Salerno
know how we
on.
can help.
Yeah, have John Salerno on. I think you would enjoy him. He has a lot. He's not as funny as me. He doesn't look kind of funny. Not as handsome. But he was a cop. He was a cop. He's going to come on with a donut in his hand and a cup of coffee probably. But what are you gonna do? He's a good guy.
Oh, see, that's why we have you on, because I love the rivalry between, just like we have it with the rivalry between branches on the show. It's good to hear the boys in blue and you fighters just go back and forth. I love it. So I want to thank you for joining today. As always, everybody, if you need to learn more, go check out laughtersaveslives.org and help donate. The donate button, sometimes it doesn't work. You have to click it a couple times and make sure it works.
$50 and see if it goes through. 50.
Yeah, just keep checking to make sure it works. But seriously, go follow them on social media and see as they launch this program to help feed folks now. See how you can help. Every little bit helps. Every dollar that you could throw their way, they could go and grab more canned goods and help those that are in need. So, John, I want to thank you.
Tuesday nights, Laughter Saves Lives Live. We're on it.
There you go. Oh, John just says you're a douche. So just so you know that.
And that's the nicest thing he said about me probably in months.
I love it. So also, if you're out here, make sure to go check out John Salerno and his Walk the Bridge movement. You can find that on Facebook and YouTube. Go there, subscribe, hit that subscribe button. Also, so John, thank you for being on our show.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you really soon, my friend.
I'm coming upstairs now, honey. Coming up. Finish the doc.
And that's our show for today, Thursday, May 14th, 2020. It was a good one, and we thank you all for tuning in. As always, we want you to smash that subscribe, hit that bell so you can be notified when we're on air again, and share it with your friends. We thank you so much on behalf of the team here, and myself, Butch Seltzer, our executive producer, Madison Mitchell, our other executive producer, and of course, the main man behind the controls, my main guy and United States Army veteran, producer Chris. And he's going to be on the radio soon. We got to hype when his appearance is. But producer Chris, is going to be on the radio, national radio, with Roy Sauter, who's been a guest on this show. So you don't want to miss that. Tomorrow, Friday, we have some amazing guests for you. We've got Ben Biddick coming on the show, Bedros Kulikan, who you've seen all this week talking about small businesses on Fox. He's coming on the show. He's got a movement that he wants you to get behind. He'll be on the show tomorrow and a few surprise guests for you. So again, I'm Eric Mitchell. Be safe, be strong, be smart, and God bless America.